Ah, amazing. We're live. Cool. Maddie, hey, it's such an honor to get to talk and yeah, kind of explore a bit the NFT space. Yeah, so I'm very much
Awesome.
looking forward to. Maybe for my German audience, I'm not sure how many. It's always funny. And so many people always say, "Oh, Australia, it's so nice." And so when I speak to an Australian, it always makes me smile a bit. Share maybe briefly for my German-speaking audience who you are, where you're from, and then I would love to dig right into the topic of NFTs.
Awesome. So my name is Matty. I run a Twitter account and a YouTube channel called DCL Blogger, and I've basically been talking about NFTs for the last 3 years. Back when CryptoKitties
Really, three
started,
years.
yeah, man, 3 years.
Wow.
2017, I got into crypto, and then 2018, I found NFTs, and I was like, whoa, what's this virtual land, virtual game item? It was just like this completely new world to me. And yeah, that's how I got involved. I kind of started investing in crypto and then rode the wave up and down and then found virtual land. And back then I didn't know what that was an NFT. I was just like, okay, well, there's this virtual land you can now invest in. That's also part of blockchain. I didn't know exactly how because I was new to crypto anyway. And then as the industry grew, it became virtual land, virtual game items. And now art has kind of taken everything. But before, if you strip all that back down and what it used to be and where it's come from, it's like a piece of technology that you can integrate and build so much on.
Yeah, when I posted on Twitter, hey, connect me to some NFT experts. I'm not kidding. So much of my audience said, hey, you need to talk to Maddie. So I was like, wow, never talked. So
Very
great.
honored.
Reached out and you were super fast in saying, hey, sure, happy to do this for my audience. So that's really awesome.
It's
Um,
awesome.
do you have any maybe a totally question that just pops up? Do you have any background in like collecting or where does this like interest
No,
come from?
I have a background on investing. Like I like to invest and grow my wealth, which everyone, I guess, in crypto like to do, right? So we like to put our money somewhere and see that appreciate in value. And so when this virtual land thing came, it wasn't really collecting. I mean, I've had Pokemon cards and stuff before, so I've been attached to, things before, but I'm not a collector. I'm more an investor.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Fun fact. I didn't know that. A friend of mine, one of the largest German YouTubers, he told me Pokemon is actually the largest franchise in the world value wise. I didn't know that. So,
Wow.
and yeah,
Probably.
humongous, huh?
Probably, man.
Cool. Let's dive in. I assume most of my audience know what NFTs are, but maybe let's spend 1 minute or
Mhm.
something on describing an NFT and maybe comparing that to Bitcoin.
Yeah, sure. So I think Bitcoin and crypto are a good comparison because they're what's called fungible tokens. So we all know that cryptocurrencies are tokens that live on the blockchain, right? So whether it's an Ethereum or Bitcoin, technically they're all tokens, and us humans, we give them value and we trade them for X amount of money. Now, so fungible tokens are things like Bitcoin, Ethereum. Basically, every cryptocurrency is fungible in nature. It's a dollar. Fungible means that I can give you one Bitcoin and you can give me a Bitcoin back. And it doesn't matter if you mine that Bitcoin 3 years ago, or if I mined that Bitcoin 1 second ago, it still has the same value. That's called fungibility. So a non-fungible token is a token where each token is unique. So you can make that token point to a game asset, a piece of art. That token can be, when you go to a virtual land like Decentraland, because it's in your digital wallet, you can knock on the door and the door will only open if you have that token. So it can be a ticket. An NFT really is a token where, as game developers, as platform creators, artists, and project project founders can bring value to. If you bring your NFTs in there, they can be pets, they can be swords, and now we're kind of seeing art. And I know that everyone's thinking NFTs are art, NFTs are art, but it's actually a token, and art's blown up because suddenly when you attach a digital image or a piece of artwork that a digital artist has done and you attach it to the NFT, then suddenly that digital art piece or the ownership of it becomes tradable. So the artist says, hey, I'm only releasing one edition, one token that represents this art piece. And suddenly, if that artist becomes famous, you have a one of one single edition piece, which is like pretty big in the real world. And now in the digital world, I mean, there was an assumption it was going to work, but obviously it's working very well. 200, 300 million has been transacted in this just art alone. So yeah, non-fungible tokens can take many, many forms. And I think we're still at the cusp of like 1% of what we've discovered so far.
The interesting thing, now that reminds me, in 2017, I did an interview. It was relatively late in the year, like right when the ICOs bubbled, and Forbes asked me, what do I think is the most important invention for 2017? And everyone was expecting I was going to say ICOs. And I said CryptoKitties because it's collectible. And to be honest, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. And I still, right now, believe NFTs are super revolutionary.
Oh
I did a
man.
meetup tour about 2 years ago, 2019, and I discussed how NFTs are gonna change the world. And now here I
Right.
am, and I see this, right? And I'm gonna link up that Twitter thread you have. It's fantastic.
Thank
It's
you.
outstanding. I used it for my research. I sit here and I'm like, this is amazing, but how do I value this stuff? So like that's what I would love to kind of dig into, like what makes these things valuable, because an artist can just pump out billions of those
Mm.
pictures, right? Yeah, that's where I'm struggling, to be honest.
Yeah. So obviously different NFTs have different value. So if we just isolate the art market and we just talk about that, because digital land and all that sort of stuff, there's different ways to value that. Now the art market is very interesting. For the first year and a half, from 2018 to 2020, I ignored it. I was like, this is crazy. Why are people selling billions of images? Don't they know there's going to be like thousands of artists rushing here and diluting the place? Isn't that how it works? My
Or even
mind was
AI,
exactly.
right? Even AI
Yeah,
generating
yeah,
art or something.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So like, why is this even investable? That was my questions. But since 2018, every month or 2 months there was a record broken, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, and mid July, I remember last year there was like $100,000 drop where an artist came and he sold pieces, and that whole sum was $100,000. And I remember him selling a piece for $55,000, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, okay, there's something going on here. Like, I have to look at this stuff, right? So, what I've discovered so far, and you kind of get this if you're a traditional art collector, is that you're really investing in the artist. So if you have an art piece or an NFT, in this case, it's an NFT or a digital art piece from an artist who goes on to do big things. This artist goes on to do the first auction in Christie's, which is what Beeple is doing. That's why his pieces are becoming so valuable. He's going to do that, and then he's being interviewed on CNBC. Who knows? He'll do a collaboration
Mhm.
with some prime minister or something, right? So as he progresses in his career, what makes the avenues to invest in an artist's career is through the NFTs. So NFTs have become like a collectible kind of seed investor tool where you can, as the artist continues to grow, as more collectors want the artist's work, yes, the artist can mint thousands of NFTs if they want to. But that's why I find it investable. Now, collecting is a different thing. If you like the artist, you can buy it. But if you want to invest, you got to you have to kind of balance that and know that the artist knows how to promote themselves, market themselves. They know how to progress their career. They have plans to stay here for a long time. They're not releasing too many mints at the same time. They're not like, oh, here's 10,000 of my new art every month or every day. Beeple, he drops 100 pieces of art, then he disappears and does really cool stuff. And then he comes and he drops a little bit of art, and then he runs off and does like some really big things. It's kind of like how um projects or cryptocurrency projects have, they release a certain amount of cryptocurrency back into circulation. You don't want them to release too much too quickly, but you want them to develop their project to a level where there's so much value that as they drop, there's so much demand that it doesn't matter.
Hmm. Do artists, like people, and to be honest, I don't know any of them, right? So you need to help
Yeah.
me out here. But do artists, like people, do they have a release schedule? Do they talk about this? Or because to me, right? So I let's think of famous. Like I actually have to call them offline artists, right?
Mm.
Let's think about famous offline artists. For them, I mean, naturally, time was the limiting resource, right? And
Mm.
now I think in the digital, I don't know, like they can, like in theory they can just drop thousands a second. So
Okay.
like where, like how, yeah, again, I don't even know where to start with my questions.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Like, how is it investable when there's no cap on a supply, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. But that's why, art has been like that in the real world. You can invest in single pieces which are hand painted, or you can also buy prints. Artists do a set of 1,000 prints which they just print and they sign, and that also becomes a collectible. So at the end of the day, it's up to the artist. So you as a collector and the artist are now team members, right? Your team members, other collectors from the artist. You're all a team now, and you want to help promote the artist. You want to get the artist in your network. You want to help them get a deal with like some gallery or something like that. And that artist knows, like some good artists. And I remember when Beeple did his first sale of 100 NFTs, it was crazy, right? So when Beeple in, I think, December last year, he did his drop and it sold $3.5 million worth within a 24-hour period. And it blew the record out of the water. I think before that, the max that was ever sold was $200,000. And that's where all this attention came from. And I remember him after that sale, his next tweet was that he treats his collectors like investors, that he, that's the relationship. He feels like he has to bring value to what we have bought. So when those artists are of that mentality, that they understand supply and demand. They know not to overly dilute, and the support from the collectors, they have to continue bringing value to. So Beeple goes on and does big things, and we get rewarded, and he gets rewarded, and it's just that's the kind of way it works.
Is he would you say is he the number one NFT artist right now?
He wasn't the earliest, but just because of his impact in taking it mainstream, I think, yeah, he would, his art would definitely be probably the most expensive and biggest. But, Beeple has 13 years of doing art every day. So Beeple has done art every single day, 3D art on his Instagram every single day for 13 years straight, every day. And, people have followed that, and he's been the one that set the trend of the everyday movement, and a lot of artists look up to him. So he didn't come from like nowhere. He came from bringing all of this and everyone knowing who he was, and the drop being successful because of that.
Was he who made that Donald Trump art? Is that from him as well? That's also from him, right?
Yeah, so that one was very cool because that NFT before the election was actually Joe Biden and Donald Trump were like fighting each other. And so the NFT was going to change to either Donald Trump stomping
Biden,
fire, or Donald Trump beaten up if he won or if he lost. So because he lost, that's the
he's
video.
lying
That's
there.
So it's kind of like,
okay.
There's history and there's a story to these NFTs. And after 1 or 2, 3 years, like as collectors and investors, we are predicting that if this is the start of a new digital era.
Oh shit, you're changing my mind here a bit. I was like way more skeptical before this call, and now I'm like, you're changing actually my mind a bit. So it's actually really more as an investor in like specifically art NFTs. You actually have to see yourself really like, having this business relationship with the artist, and you need to be able to trust that artist, that he or she doesn't go and suddenly inflate all the paintings.
Exactly. And I think good artists, they understand that as well. So they know not to mint hundreds and dilute their collectors. Why would they do that? There's no benefit for them, and they devalue their art by doing so. They keep value to their art by keeping it scarce and limited and making sure the demand is there before dropping too much. So
where can I buy people's art?
Oh, there's so many platforms, man. Because it's an NFT, technically you can buy it from multiple platforms: Maker's Place, Nifty Gateway. There's a lot of really good data. You can go to cryptoartpulse.com, which is a website that I made.
Cryptoartpulse.com.
Yeah, cryptoartpulse.com, which shows you a feed of every single sale that's made, and from which artist, which collector, how much price, the profit that was made. It's a feed continuously. Every day you check it, and every day, every morning, every 1 hour I check it to see which artists are selling, which artists are appreciating in value. And there's a lot of like collectability, but there's a lot of data that drives my decisions as well, right? It's not just me just saying, oh, this picture looks good.
So who else would be like, what other artists do you see, I don't know, moving up right now? Or
You got like a notepad there.
Yeah. No, I have someone listening to the video afterwards making all the notes. That's why I don't have to make them.
I hesitate to say that because I'm selective of who I like. But if you go to Crypto Art Pulse, you'll see there's hundreds of artists that are selling pieces for thousands and tens of thousands. Some of them are pixel artists, some of them are 3D artists, some of them are flat image artists. So there's like the ones I collect is Beeple, because Beeple. So I think, so this is my theory and my assumption, and this is what drives my decisions, is because I think that this is the first time, well, this is the reality, is this is the first time in history of the universe that digital art has become transferable. Like the ownership of digital art has become transferable. So if this is the new era of this phase, then 3, 5, 10, 100, 200 years from now, the ones that started this whole things, right? When the history books are written and the documentaries are made, there's going to be select few artists that were important in this era, this renaissance. So for me, it's like, okay, I want to get a piece of these antique historical pieces, which in 10, 15 years, they'll be desirable because they'll be so significant of this time. So,
But at the end, all you own is a hash
token.
associated to your private key, because
But isn't
at the
that a
end, the
Bitcoin?
actual true, but so okay. So the reason I'm saying this, I mean, you're right. That question is fair. The reason I'm saying this, so I don't collect art. I
Yeah.
have many other wealthy friends who love collecting art, and whenever I'm in their houses, I'm like, why do you pay $1 million for this painting, right? You can just get a copy. And they're like, yeah, but Julian, like it's the energy, it's the whatever, the esoteric, right? It's the quantum states that resonate still in the room, and that the energy that you feel that a print cannot resemble, right? And whatever, right? If you believe in this, whatever, but I get it, right? I understand where they're coming from. The copy is not the same as the original. I'm struggling on the NFT side there. Like, all I own, like on Bitcoin. So on Bitcoin, I get it. You're right. There's only 20. Yes, there's only 21 million. I get it. And on the NFT side, you're saying there is only whatever 1,000 peoples, right? In theory, he could make them fungible as well. He just makes them non-fungible, and you own one of those, right? That's kind of the pitch.
Kind of, but it's also, so I came in with the same mindset of yours, purely investor, right? Supply demand, because we're a cryptocurrency background. We like supply caps. We like, we want to know circulating supply.
Or
we want to know
predictability or
hard
something.
caps. You want to go
Yeah.
into something that, there's an end to and demand will rise and it'll go up. I understand that. But collecting brings out a different emotion, right? And this is something I only learned when I bought it. And so some of the pieces that I own, I know it sounds crazy, but I wouldn't sell it for $1 million just because they mean so much to me. And because I feel that, I'm like, oh, wow, others must feel the same. They want these art pieces so badly that they will pay big money for it. And you know what? People in crypto, and you know this better than anyone, that people in crypto have become so filthy rich. There's people like with $500 million that are just people behind flat screen, laptops. And these guys have never been able to spend their crypto on anything apart from other cryptocurrencies. And now there's digital assets, NFTs as a whole. And if we're just talking art, there's art that you can learn about, invest in, park your assets in, some of your wealth in, exit to at a peak of a bull run. So there's like, a different kind. That's why it's kind of accelerating, because people are coming with like 30, $50 million and they're like, oh, let me just throw $1 million or $2 million in this stuff. And that's why you're seeing this boom. It's, if this was born on a non-crypto native space, I don't think it would have seen this sort of acceleration, but because it's doing that. So
okay, I want to throw in the question right away. Like I get a bit of the feeling, and maybe like others as well, that this might be ICO-ish, 2017-ish, maybe not end of 2017 kind of bubble scenario, but like the beginning a bit. Especially like a lot of emotions involved, right? Not much reasons, many emotions. A lot of hopium, a lot of people like,
speculators. And
how do you see that?
I think I would agree with you if this was a new industry, but it's 3 years old, and art has been breaking records as NFTs for 2 years straight. It's just that mainstream didn't know about it. We've been art. Look, I can't say I'm an art collecting OG. I'm not. I've been following the space for 6 months, but prior to that, I've been watching it, and I've known that since like 2018, mid 2018, art has become like, if you look at the graph of Super Rare, you can see steady growth all the way for 2 years, right? 2.5 years, and it's been breaking records. And every time it breaks records, the new people, they say, oh, isn't this a bubble? Like, this is crazy. Why would people spend this much money? You know what? Now it kind of seems like a lot if you compare it to US dollars, because spending power of Ethereum, people with Ethereum and crypto has 5x. People have 5x their wealth in terms of USD over the last 6 months. So if they put down 200, 300 Ethereum, which they used to do before anyway, it's not, it's not $120,000. It's like $600,000, $700,000. And that's why all these news stations are coming running and being like, oh, wow, millions of dollars are being spent. But for us, We bought that Ethereum for like $50,
$8.
right?
Yeah.
$8.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Question first. How do I stay up to date, especially the art kind of game? Like where would you guide me? Where would you, like, what are the links I should post in there? Yeah,
Yeah.
as jump off points.
Yeah, I think there's some platforms that are quite popular. So Nifty Gateway is where a lot of popular artists come and they drop art. There's Super Rare that drop only, so artists can go and mint only single edition pieces on Super Rare. So each one is very
That's
unique.
Elliot Trades on Twitter, right?
No, Elliot Trades, I think he does something else. No, that's Super Farm. That's Super Farm.
Super Farm. Yeah, right.
So this is Super Rare. Super Rare is an art minting platform. Then there's Maker's Place and all this. So these are platforms you can buy, but what's most important is obviously the data. So you can go to a website called cryptoartpulse.com.
Yep.
And then you can search the artist's name. So if you go to Nifty Gateway or Super Rare and you find an artist, you can search the artist's name in cryptoartpulse.com and you can see a feed of all the sales. And then you can scroll all the way down to the bottom and you can be like, wow, in 2019, this person sold for $1,000. Now they're selling for $50,000, $60,000. You can see X amount of sales happening every month. So there's consistent volume coming in. And you can kind of do your research in that sense. But the most important thing, I think, is to be part of the community. Because as you start collecting and as you announce, you'll notice this. On your Twitter, if you announce that you own a Beeple piece, you're going to get like 1,000 artists starting to follow you. You're going to get collectors starting to DM you and be like, dude, you own a Beeple, right? The internet culture and the idea of flaunting, whether you want to flaunt it or not, just saying you have this, it's just like you're part of that group, right? You're an art collector. So it's just like, I started as an investor and now I'm just like, wow, there's a community here. Like we collect and everyone picks up their like tweet, oh, Matty's buying this, Matty's buying that. And then they're pitching me their artwork. And it's just like this crazy new world for me, but it's fun. Like internet culture is becoming a very strong community. And the reason why Bitcoin and crypto have value is because of internet culture. Like people understand the internet has value. So
other than your Twitter and YouTube, do you have like a Telegram group or Discord or something where you guys discuss this stuff, or is it mostly your Twitter?
It's mostly my Twitter. So on Twitter, I do threads. I do, breakdowns, analysis points. On YouTube, I cover my buys and I basically keep kind of people posting on what I'm doing and my mindset. So I think it's a good way to keep in touch.
Okay. What's the secondary market like, for example, for people?
For Beeple?
Mm-hmm.
So for Beeple, the secondary market is probably the hottest out of everyone. So the thing with Beeple is his first drop that he did, he sold 2 single edition pieces and 1 set of 100, right? The set of 100 he sold for $1 each. So you can imagine within a split second, they're all gone. The 2 single editions went for $66,000 each. That single edition was the one that sold for 6.6 million about a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
On Christie's, right?
All those $1 pieces, minimum right now is about $300,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
okay, but these are they're fungible among each other, or are the 100 all non-fungible among each other?
They're non-fungible because the mint. So in the art world, the mint numbers matter.
Why?
If you have mint number 1, then suddenly that's a lot more valuable than mint number 7 or 10.
Really?
Yeah, people pay a lot of money for mint number 1, mint number 100, and if you go to NBA Top Shot, the player jerseys number, people pay a lot of money for that. Because it's a collector thing. Remember, it's a collector thing. People the desire to own something unique is so strong, man.
Far apart from me. Okay, I really need to understand that world better.
You can only understand it. And dude, trust me, Julian, I understand you because you're like me. You're analytical. You're crypto. You come from this background. You're born in this generation.
Very left brain side. Yeah.
Very left brain, and me too. Trust me. But the moment you buy something and then you sell something and then you see something you like, I remember the first art piece I bought. I was like, man, you know what, Matty, you got to like push this left brain aside. Like, let's just try. What's some harm in just putting in, $10,000 and seeing what happens? So I remember showing my wife a piece that I really liked. And I was like, babe, this is from Melbourne. The artist is from Melbourne. Looks really cool. Look at this 3D stuff. And she's like, oh, that's nice. And then when I slept and I didn't buy it and I woke up and she asked me, she's like, man, did you buy that piece? It's really cool. You should go buy it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy coming from you, like my wife telling me to spend $5,000 on this digital piece. And she was like, oh man, can you buy it? It's like a really good piece. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, people value this. And my wife's not into crypto at all. Anyway, I bought that, and the Marco Matic, who's the artist, he lives in Melbourne, which is near where I live, and he goes to the meetups and stuff, and it's cool. I like, he does like storybooks for kids and all this sort of stuff. And like art collecting, it's crazy, man. I tell my friends, they're all buying stuff. There's a recent I used to play Dota, so there was like this OG. Do you play Dota at all, or
No.
no? So Dota 2, which is a Warcraft game, or it used to be. There's esports teams, right? And so in esports, a really big one called OG, they came and did a drop. So they dropped what's called their rings. And
And drop, just so I also make sure I understand it, a drop just means it's basically the initial offering. That's creating the whatever, the NFT.
So a drop, what they do is they say, all right, so they have different things. So some of them, what they say is for 5 minutes, you can buy as many of these art pieces as you want. So that's their drop. So people go in, they buy 800 or something, and then after 5 minutes, no one can buy anything. And that becomes the supply of that specific art piece set. And then there's an auction and then all that sort of stuff. But it's a 24-hour period where the artist comes and he just drops the amount of art, and then he leaves, and investors buy what they want, and then he moves on, right? So OG came and they sold like these packs or something that you could have bought for, I think, $75, $80 each. And they randomly generated different colored rings. So there was like 50 supply of gold rings and 200 supply of green rings, etc. So after that happened, they became scarce, and they've gone from $75 to like $500. And when I show my friends, they're like, "Oh, Matty, I want that OG ring, right? Where I watch Dota, I play the game, I watch OG esports." So they come and buy those because they can connect with it. So there's different things that, as collectors we want. You can imagine, did you watch Pokemon back in the day? You didn't watch? I'm telling you, my generation was crazy about Pokemon. If Pokemon ever did a drop, everyone would throw investing out of the window and just.
I mean, that's what a lot of people are saying, right? Yeah, they're saying that's when it's gonna get totally insane. Okay, I always believe it. Sorry, yeah, you go.
No, Pokemon is the perfect example of just like an obsessive collector demographic, where it's just so much nostalgia, where it's just so much culture around it, that it drives people insane as the amount of money that they pump into it, right? So that's like a very extreme collector demographic. So even if you get half of that into the art demographic, then I think it's got longevity, because if it becomes something that people want to collect, and we're at the cusp of a bull run and people are going to take 10x their wealth again, then you can imagine like maybe they'll put it into art.
Where would I buy, like, what's the secondary market where I buy a people?
So you can go to niftygateway.com. So Beeple has dropped art in 2 places, Nifty Gateway and Maker's Place. Maker's Place was the recent one. Nifty Gateway is where he started. So you can go to Nifty Gateway, you click on Marketplace tab, and you will see Beeple. You click on Beeple and you can list it from the cheapest, and you can see the cheapest that are listed. I think the cheapest one currently is $160,000 minimum. But so what Beeple did was very significant. When he dropped art, he dropped also a physical piece. So if you bought the NFT, you would have got a digital piece, but he also sent each person, you had the ability to claim a physical box set with a digital screen and a gold coin, and all this cool stuff that came with it. So he bridged the gap of our mindset of saying, hey, you know what, we get a physical as well. And that's why his drop did so crazy, that it onboarded all these people that were like, nah, I don't want this because it's just an NFT. And now you see people dropping physicals and NFTs.
Has anyone tokenized an NFT already? I would have just assumed, like, with 160,000, tokenize it into, I don't know, 100,000 new tokens. Each token now is worth $1.60. Suddenly, whoop.
So you know what? So Beeple, when he dropped his art, he dropped the second time he dropped art, he dropped 21 single edition pieces. So each one was unique. There's an investor, and I think they're a venture firm, or maybe he's an angel investor, MetaPurse or Metacoven. He bought all 20 of them out of the 21 for about $100,000 each. So he spent 2 million or 2.3. Then what he did was he locked it up and he released a token called B20. So B20 is actually an ERC20 token. And I think when he sold it, it was 50 cents. Now it's about $10, because as Beeple continues his career, everyone just rushed and buy B20. So there's all these cool experiments. You can get your NFT and lock it in as collateral in like NFTFi. There's because it's an NFT token, you can plug it into all these DeFi protocols and build this into games. And maybe if you own a Beeple art piece and in the game you got like a Beeple sword, NFT technology is just so, the technology part of it hasn't been investigated in depth yet.
Are there ETFs, DAOs, like ways how you can diversify, like for the average dumb NFT
Yeah,
investor like myself? Yeah, how
kind
does that
of.
work?
Kind of like there's Whale Shark as well, who's a very famous investor in our community. And what he did was he spent, I think, $3 to $5 million of his own money collecting art, collecting NFT cards, and all the really rare stuff. And then he issued the Whale token. So if you buy the Whale token, technically you're getting exposure to all of these assets, Sandbox land, all this really cool stuff. And so Whale token, I think, has gone from like $1 to, I think recently it's like $30 or something crazy. So that's a really good way to get exposure to everything if you want to.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is that the NFT technology is there for anyone to do anything with. Niftex.com, or maybe it's niftex.io. They're a place where I can take my NFT and fractionalize it. I can do like a mini pre-sale and say, hey, I'm going to keep 40%, but 60% I'm going to turn into ERC20 tokens. The NFT gets locked in a wallet that you need a multi-sig to get out. And it gets issued tokens that people can buy on an exchange. So Niftex is an exchange like that, where you can fractionalize NFTs. So there's all this infrastructure being built around this to give it sustainable value.
Cool. Yeah, I'll ask Fabrizio or Sylvia. No matter, I'm not sure who's gonna work through the video to really list out all the links you're just mentioning and making sure we link them down below. I'll work through them myself because I need to get in that. Maybe I'll buy a people piece. Yeah, just to have one just to be safe.
So now there's a Christie's auction going on for people. So this is the first time a pure NFT has been sold at Christie's, and Christie's is an auction house that sold like Banksy's and things before, right?
Yeah.
So the current bid is $3.5 million on this NFT with 7 days left. If this bid goes for 15, 20, maybe 30 million, who knows? The hypothesis is that there's going to be so much traditional art kind of respect to the NFT world that they'll be like, okay, let's diversify into NFTs. And that's why, one of the reasons why everyone's trying to grab a Beeple piece and everyone's grabbing these other OG artists, because they are very prominent in this time.
Sure.
That if traditional collectors suddenly start collecting digital artists, who are they going to come for? So you can see.
Yeah, it's like myself. Like I got no clue, so I'm like, which one do I pick? I pick the biggest one, so I pick people, of course. Yeah, that's where I'd start. Yeah. What was the story with the Banksy thing? I mean, I posted on Twitter like, I don't understand this one bit where these people burn the Banksy picture painting and then issue an NFT for it. Like, to me, that was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I only remember looking at it very briefly, and I just kept scrolling because I don't think it was Banksy himself, obviously, but it was.
No, it was some investors who bought it and then burned it or something.
I think it was actually from Superfarm. I don't want to. Maybe
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to misquote Elliot, but I think what they were trying to show or display is that the physical piece doesn't exist anymore, and we're going to make it we're going to issue an NFT, and the NFT represents what was burnt. So just to give you the idea that you're not buying a duplicate, you're buying now the original has now become the NFT. So I think that's what they were trying to do, and it's, what, the art world is all about these experiments, man. It's like, it's crazy. These experiments and the publicity around the experiment gives value to the art. And that's why all these people are doing all this fun, cool stuff. I actually did this tweet once that said, this tweet can be an NFT. And then people started to offer money to make that tweet into an NFT. And so I was like, okay, in 24 hours, I'm going to stop the bidding, and whoever gets it, gets it. So the bid went up to $400, and someone got that tweet. And that tweet is now an NFT. And I was like, look, I don't know if this tweet is going to hold value. So I'm just going to make a really crappy art piece for you. My first ever art piece. I'm not a drawer. I don't draw, but you have my NFT now. So it's all about these little fun experiments that is like kind of fun to be part of.
Wow. Okay. What about all the other areas? Is art today the main topic you focus on? I mean, I come from professional sports, right? So for me, like, collecting cards is something like sports cards is at least something I could somehow relate to, but even there I'm struggling. But what about all the other things, like collectibles, like the cards, right? Skins for computer games, the utility things, like what's the what? Give me a bit of an overview there.
I think the art world is the reason why it's blowing up right now is because it's a very easy kind of platform to create. Like all you have to do is create the base structure of the platform, start uploading images, and you have a platform, and the industry can go on its way. Games obviously take 2-3 years to develop. They take fine tuning, they take gameplay. People have to figure out how to optimize for gameplay and all that sort of stuff, stabilize the system. And so games haven't really started to take off yet, but I think that next year and maybe at the late this year, there's going to be a big rush of really good quality AAA games that are integrating NFT technology, where you can buy the early skins, the early swords. You can trade these on the marketplace. There's a really cool game called Axie Infinity, which are like this kind of Pokemon style game, Pokemon slash Tamagotchi. And the early Axies, that's what they call them, that you could have bought, 3 years ago, you had a chance of buying one, and it had a chance of becoming what's called a mystic Axie, or having some of its parts a mystic part. And so back then you could have bought them at 0.6 Ethereum, but over the 3 years now they have gone up to 9 Ethereum minimum for a single one. And an Axie with 4 parts mystic, yeah, an Axie with 3 parts mystic, I think sold for like $150,000 last year. Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy. So games is a different type of investing. For me, as the game user base increases, the daily active users increase, right? There's thousands and hundreds of thousands of players of the game. Why would they not go for, or why would the demand not increase for the very early items and the rare items? So that's a different way of investing. I'm actually from virtual land. That's how I got in, right? So in Jan 2018,
Decentraland.
yeah, Decentraland. I got in Jan 2018, and I joined the Discord, and there's all these people saying, "Yo, I'm
What's the
buying."
difference on Decentraland between land and mana? I forgot what's the difference
So
between
Mana is the
those.
cryptocurrency.
Uh-huh.
Mana is the cryptocurrency ERC20 token that's tradable on exchanges. Land is an NFT token, which if you own that land, then you have the build rights for that particular coordinates. So that land can be very central. That land can be next to Atari. That land can be all over the place. And based on where it is, it has different value. Because people want to be next to Atari, or people want to be close to the center, which is the spawn point.
Who is Atari?
Atari, man. You don't know Atari?
No, dude.
Atari
I
is like
come.
one of the biggest game consoles.
I thought it's a person. Like I, of course, the gaming thing. I thought
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a crypto something. I don't know.
So
Ah,
Atari have deployed in Decentraland, and they've got like this really cool competition where game developers can make a game in Decentraland to be played in the Atari building, which will run under the license for 3 years. So the revenue generated will be,
and so people want to have land close there, and for what
yeah.
reason?
Well, they can build stuff. So they can build like conference centers and charge people 20, 100 mana each to enter. They can build like
Yeah,
games. They
but
can
who
build casinos.
enters? Who enters it?
It's kind of like Second Life. So like there's a really popular project called Decentral Games who built casinos. So Decentraland is an interesting one because Decentraland, the concept of it is to decentralize the platform. So it's not just one server that hosts all of Decentraland. There's multiple servers that host Decentraland. It can't be shut off. And then there's the DAO, right? People vote on the direction that the world takes, if they want to add more land or if they want to add more mana and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of decentralized in that aspect. And that's why there's a casino that's there, and they've released a DG token, and you can go and mine DG token by playing their games. So I think DG token is like $40-50 million market cap, but it's an example how people are using their land. But you can build conference centers, people are actually building galleries. In fact, galleries have become one of the biggest use cases for virtual land, not just Decentraland, but crypto voxels, because there's people with like $5-10 million art portfolio. So why wouldn't they build a gallery, a virtual one where they can bring in everyone? They can start a Twitter
Of
account, just like
course.
real galleries. Yeah,
Of course. Yeah, totally. Okay, crypto voxels. Yeah, okay. Isn't there? I remember that. Isn't there an Austrian project? I thought they are also get involved in this. Maybe I'm
Australian. I'm
no
not sure.
Austrian, not Australian.
Maybe is it
Austrian.
Somnium
Yeah,
Space?
yeah, I'm not sure.
The Somnium Space, Crypto Voxels, the Sandbox, and Decentraland are probably the biggest ones. I know Axie Infinity also are releasing virtual land gameplay as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, I would say that land is not a collectible. Obviously, it's more a utility item. You own the land because it's in a good spot. And so, for example, there was a land that Metacoven bought, and I had that land. I sold it to Metacoven, who's the guy who bought the Beeple pieces. And Metacoven ended up building a huge museum for Beeple. and he had this huge meetup when he launched B20. He actually had a massive meetup across all the metaverses. Sorry, the whole metaverse. So crypto voxels, Somnium Space, Decentraland, and the day he dropped to B20, everyone was in these virtual places, and it was streamed in, and he was streaming in like what the plans are for B20, and we were doing Q&As and stuff like that. And so and then that land where his museum is, that became quite valuable. So the land next to it, when an investor came to me and he was like, Matty, I want to buy a really nice land. Where do you think I should buy? I want to build a nice gallery. I was like, hey, why don't you build next to Metacoven? So he got that land and he really wanted that one. So it's like this place where it's crazy. It's like the real world. How when someone builds their base, people want it next to you. It's a new industry, man. Like it's all kind of forming in front of our eyes, and we're all kind of experimenting and learning.
Wow. Okay. What is I'm in touch actually with Gary Vaynerchuk and Mark Cuban, and yeah, what is their angle in all of that from what you can see?
Gary is very bullish on the collectible industry as a whole and the NFT industry as well. And I've spoken to Gary as well, and he gets that obviously NFTs are much bigger than collectibles as a utility.
Yeah, I mean he's always in collecting all the baseball cards and stuff. Yeah, he talks about that all the time.
Yeah,
and his brother AJ, I mean, he's also big in Vayner Sports. So
exactly. And also Mark Cuban, he definitely understands that NFTs are more a utility thing. Like when he first dropped his things on Rarible, he was like, hey, you can buy this on Rarible and you're going to get a 30-second clip from me on my Twitter. And they were going for like $10,000 each or $20,000 each just for this NFT that if you bought it, it unlocked an email address, and that email address you could email and pitch what you wanted him to say. And it was cool because everyone ran in and got some stuff. So I think they definitely understand it, and they're very bullish. I think Gary's like almost all in. He's just like talking about it all over the place. All his podcasts these days are all NFT related. And I think he really sees, there was a quote that he said, NFTs are the manifestation of my life, or something along those lines. Like the whole collectability now in the digital world is just like this massive. Yeah,
it surprises me both, because both Mark and Gary both were like never convinced of Bitcoin, and now suddenly with this non-fungible stuff, for them they totally get it. It's so interesting.
You know why? Because
they change of mind.
I think they especially Gary. I think he's like a community person. He understands the rush and passion of like a community, and so if a community gives something value, he can see that, he identifies that, and when he sees that, he knows that value given by internet communities is very strong. And also Chamath also said that he's acquiring a big collection of art NFTs. Mm-hmm. So
curious.
It's all happening.
What about Paul Logan? Didn't he get also into NFT stuff? What does he do there?
Yeah, so Logan Paul.
Yeah,
you got me confused. I was like, Paul Logan.
Yeah.
No, Logan Paul, he released, I think 3,000 NFTs or something like that on the Bondly platform. So Bondly Finance are a platform that I think are building like an NFT launch pad. They're doing lots of things, but one of the products is an NFT launch pad for these influencers. So they've had Logan Paul, I think they have got like 3 to 4 or 5 lined up of similar caliber, and they're going to release NFTs through that platform. So that's why I've kind of invested in Bondly, because I think it's going to be pretty big. But Logan Paul did that.
But Bondly, that is what? That's an ERC20.
Yeah. Bondly is an ERC20. It's a more of a DeFi kind of platform, but it's really cool because the NFTs that they're selling, if you buy them, then you can use, if you stake that NFT on their decentralized exchange, you get 0 fees. So they're building utility for the NFTs. So if you own them, you can keep packing utility to it and keep bringing value. So that's a different kind of thing.
So, and maybe taking it a step up, if I don't have faith in the actual NFT, and I live more by the idea, let's not try to find the gold. Let's try to find the shovels and the chains and stuff. So basically taking it a level up. My first thinking would be, I would be investing more into the exchange platforms, into the trading platforms. Is my thinking wrong here? And maybe I'm not having the direct exposure, right? Maybe I'm not going to have that much upside, but I also would say I have probably lower risk. Walk me through there a bit.
Yeah, I have the most of my portfolio, 70-80% of it is in cryptocurrencies or equity into companies that, like you said, are on a structural level, marketplaces that are going to be big NFT marketplaces like
Yeah.
Rarible, Decentraland Mana token, because, as a virtual land, it might be a big place, as a virtual place where people may hang out and build like conference centers and whatever. Sandbox also has a sand token. You got whale token. So if you want exposure, there's about 5 to 10 that cover the spectrum. You can also invest in Matic that are building. They've got like 50 dApps in the NFT space built on Matic, Flow blockchain that are becoming a blockchain.
Engine.
Engine as well, yeah. Engine, Wax is like a collectible launch platform. So there's like 10 to 15 that are mature
Mhm.
and have been around for 2 to 3 years. I think NFTX is doing like index funds for
Yeah.
NFTs.
Saw that.
So
Yeah.
there's an array, Bondly Finance. So like, yeah, there's not one that cover everything, but there's 10 to 15. Just like you want to invest in DeFi coins, I have a set of like 10 to 15 that I've spread my wealth across, and they're doing pretty well, man. Like yesterday they were all mooning, and I was like, wow, this is like,
Yeah, yeah. No. I have that's the space that I've invested in, and I saw it. It's like insane. Like massive, massive, massive gains over the past couple of days, especially.
yeah.
Obviously not as much as if you invest directly into the NFT, but then also I don't have to have as much conviction on the individual
Mm.
piece or something. Yeah.
Well, cryptocurrencies are an easier mechanism to invest, right? It has better visibility. It's all on exchanges. People have 10 years of experience in
Yeah.
investing in cryptocurrencies. So it has better liquidity. So I think it's just as profitable to invest in cryptocurrencies. NFTs are more for like experimentation of what the
Mhm.
platform and this industry can do. So if you spot opportunity early, then you can capitalize on that if you put everything together, which is what some of these people are doing.
Mhm. Uh, and then obviously the next layer would be, if people don't even want to do that, they would invest into what, Ethereum. Which blockchains are most of those, basically all those projects on? I mean, because you could say, okay, I'm just investing into the blockchain. Yeah, my upside is the smallest in comparison to if NFTs take off, but also my downside is the lowest. What are the main blockchains that all this stuff is on?
Ethereum is definitely the biggest by far, just because it came with a lot of investors that were quite wealthy that wanted to see success in Ethereum. So they wanted to promote the project. So, they're happy to spend money on projects that are building on Ethereum. So Ethereum is definitely by far the biggest. Then there's Flow blockchain that came out of nowhere and now did really well with NBA Top Shot. It comes from the same family of CryptoKitties, Dapper Labs, and it's going to leverage NBA Top Shot to bring a lot of like new projects on Flow. I think Flow is going to be a really big one. And then there's a lot of like scaling solutions like Matic, Immutable X is coming, Near Protocol. There's like 5 or 6 really good ones that NFT projects are using to kind of scale themselves, because obviously transacting on Ethereum doesn't make sense. You're paying $30 to $50 to trade a $2 card. It doesn't make sense. So they need to implement some sort of scaling solution. So I think there's those. If you want to drive it really back to kind of a safer play, yeah.
Cool. Maddie, what I would love to do, obviously we're going to drop this on the German channel. I would love to kind of compile a list of questions that for sure are going to come up. And I don't know if you open that, maybe we do a round two where we specifically address the questions that people have. Yeah,
Yes,
that would be, I think,
do it.
super helpful, super fun. Other than the Twitter, YouTube channel, anything else where I'm gonna link it up below. This is gonna be the first two links in there as hop off points for you.
I would just say Twitter. Twitter, I'm crazy about, just because the whole community lives on Twitter. We're all sharing stuff. It's all growing like crazy on Twitter. YouTube, if you want more in-depth content, I do podcasts. I've done 4 so far, and I'm going to have a lot of guests from founders to artists on YouTube. So I think just those two. I can say my blog, but I'm more active on Twitter and YouTube. So DCL Blogger on both YouTube and Twitter.
So, and on Twitter, that's at DCL Blogger, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm
Hopefully.
not sure.
Well, I'm thinking of
No.
changing my name to NFT Blogger. I'm like, I DCL bloggers when I started with Decentraland, I was like, oh, maybe it can be Decentraland or decentralized, based on
Mhm.
how Decentraland goes. But then now the NFT space is so big. I think at some
Yeah, I
stage
mean,
I'll change.
if the handle is available, I would go with NFT Blogger. Just as
Yeah, yeah.
like SEO advice,
I better go get that
or,
really quickly
or
then.
yeah, or Twitter search engine. Okay, we'll link up the updated handle anyways. Cool.
Cool,
Um,
man.
Matty, that was super insightful. I'm telling you, like, I went into this call and I was like 99% sure Matty is not going to change my mind, because to me, that's just trash. And it's exciting, but that's trash. And now actually I sit here and I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm just not
Nice.
understanding the space well enough. If I would, and I would spend more time in there, I would definitely see value in there. I might buy a people piece.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've done my job.
Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Look, at any time if you want to like connect up again, and then you want me to walk you through like the platform, we can screen share. I can show you the data and like why my buy decision makes sense to me, and then you can decide off there where you want to go.
Ah, that would be cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that video. So we're recording March 5th. Yeah, I think that video goes out next week because we need to translate subtitle. So it's gonna go out next week somewhere. Then we're gonna get the questions. Yeah, and then I would love to kind of walk those through. And yeah, I think a screen share or something would be awesome.
Awesome, man. Let's do that.
Matty, totally appreciate that. Yeah, thanks so much. You're in Melbourne, right?
I am in Melbourne. Yeah.
Awesome city, man.
Yeah,
good
Melbourne.
Good kite surfing. Yeah, I had some great days there. So
yeah, no, it's nice. It's the only problem is that the timings are really bad. With you, it wasn't too bad, but with most people in like the US,
for me, it's just 3 hours, so it's okay.
yeah, no, it's actually pretty good. Usually at this time, everyone's sleeping.
Yeah, cool, man. Hey, I totally appreciate that. Yeah. Hey, all the best in the meantime. Stay healthy, stay safe. We're gonna be in touch. And you have my email and everything, and then we'll reach out. I'm following you on Twitter. I love your stuff, so it's really good. Cool, man.
Thanks, man. We'll be in touch for sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks.